our latest episode of True Wrestling Fans. I'm Mike.
And I'm Frank, and today we're going to be talking about Uncrowned Champions Part 3, which will cover the 2000s up until the current. We'll be discussing 4 individuals that were deserving of the title at one point. One might actually be getting the title here momentarily. We'll talk about that in a minute. You want to go ahead and start us off?
All right, first guy we got on the list is Shelton Benjamin.
That's definitely.
So Sheldon,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Sheldon was part of the that dream team, that all-star OVW crew, along with Batista, John Cena,
Lesnar,
Lesnar, and Orton. Am I missing one, or is that it? That's just the dream team.
Those were the guys in 2002.
Yeah. All-star
that
class.
Hall of Fame OVW class.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And Shelton Benjamin, they started him off in the tag team division, world's greatest tag team with Charlie Haas. They teamed him with Team Angle.
All right.
They put that little faction together. So his first run was pretty good with feuds with Los Guerreros and guys like that. And then
they were doing those run-ins, right? Was that before they started wrestling, or they were already wrestling when they were doing the run-ins on Lesnar and all that stuff?
I think it was they were starting to wrestle already.
Okay.
While Angle was feuding with Lesnar.
That was great stuff, man. When Angle wouldn't fight him one-on-one.
Oh yeah. Well, remember they did the Angle did the angle of his neck, which actually he was having an issue with. They thought about eliminating that match at WrestleMania, because if you remember, 2 weeks prior to WrestleMania 19, they had the match on SmackDown.
Yes, I remember that.
And we all thought, especially me as a fan, oh no, what's going to go happen to the main event? Is this it? Are we going to have another challenger? But they still pulled it out despite Lesnar's shooting star debacle.
Right, botch.
And we'll get into that later down the road when we talk about that WrestleMania.
Absolutely.
So what was it? Shortly after WrestleMania 20, they break World's Greatest Tag Team up, and he goes drafted to Raw, and he has his first feud with none other than the Triple H. Beats him, by the way, which is something that's really not heard of.
Yeah, that's a little shocking.
Well, what wasn't shocking is what happened next. He was buried.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe they were afraid of the push too fast.
Right.
But for whatever reason, me personally, I think if it was a fast track, they should have went with it.
Yeah, I think part of the problem with him was that his mic skills just weren't up to par. Like, especially at that point, his in-ring ability there's no question about it.
But, you kidding me? Some of his greatest matches, Triple H, Shawn Michaels.
Oh yeah, that
Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho. I mean, the list goes on and on.
That match with HBK when he did that the super kick and he jumped off the what year?
Slingshot from the rope.
Do you remember what year that was?
That was May of 2005 on Monday Night Raw. Okay, it was a Gold Rush tournament.
Okay, so he had been in a couple of years at that point.
He was already on Raw for about a year. He had already been Intercontinental Champion. As a matter of fact, I think he was Intercontinental Champion at the time when he was in that first round match with Shawn, and that was just epic.
Yeah, that stands out. Like, when I think about him, I think about that. That kick was crazy. That was insane.
Matter of fact, for years on the Raw intro, they used that.
Yep, that's right.
And I mean, that was one of the best matches. That actually could have been a rematch, a pay-per-view match. I mean, those two worked really well together.
Yeah, no question. There's no question about that.
And then what we got? And then from there, he had a great match. He had a 13-minute match with Kurt Angle in 2005 in August when Angle was drafted to Raw.
Right.
It was right after SummerSlam. It was a great match. However, it didn't go his way. Angle, got the tap out win on him, but it was still an instant classic on Raw.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got Kurt Angle, one of the best that ever did it, and you got this guy up and coming, great technical wrestler. Like, you can't mess that up.
No, and not to mention, matter of fact, let's back up a little bit. In 2005, they had the first Money in the Bank ladder match in which he participated in, and he's best known for running up the ladder, just like it was a set of stairs, and jumping and doing the flip out to the outside on the apron. I mean, he just stole the show, despite he didn't come out victorious.
Yeah.
That, unfortunately, that was Edge. But
That was the was that
Unfortunately,
well, not to cut you off. Was that the beginning of like Edge like being like the Money in the Bank guy?
yeah, because he held it until New Year's Revolution
Yeah.
'06, where he beat Cena, but then a few weeks later he dropped the title back to him. When he came back from his injury, he was pretty much the
Mm,
aggressive type, which
mm.
it was well deserving because it was well overdue
Right, right.
for him. But unfortunately, with Sheldon, if you what goes up must come down, because from there now they started the losing streak on Raw where he's losing to everybody. They even brought in the gimmick where his mama was at ringside,
Oh man, I
and
forgot about that. Oh
yeah,
Jesus.
by this
It's like
time
WCW. That's like Judy Bag. Was it Judy Bagwell?
Judy Bagwell on a
Yeah,
pole
yeah,
match.
yeah, yeah. Oh Jesus.
Oh yeah, this was where he started his decline, and from there, despite the fact that he was trying, they had drafted him to when they brought in. I remember ECW
Hmm.
again, which
The
was pretty
reboot.
much
That was during the beginning of the reboot, right? Of
yeah, it was a
ECW.
reboot slash the minor leagues like NXT
Yeah.
or Florida Championship Wrestling because
Right,
all the
right.
new guys had come through there. Sheamus,
Hmm.
Kofi, Kevin Thorne, which nobody probably remembers.
CM Punk went through there too,
CM
didn't
Punk came
he?
through there,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. And he was drafted to ECW. And the one thing that he did that Vince did not like was he dyed his hair gold. And that aggravated him to no end. Unfortunately enough, he came up with the gimmick of the gold standard. Vince got on board with it, but still, even in ECW, nothing was done with him. And from there, I mean, he returned back to the tag team division back on SmackDown in 2006 and 2007 with Charlie Haas, and then he had feuds with the Hardy Boys for the tag titles, which were good matches, but I mean, this is the second time they're re-gimmicking World's Greatest Tag Team. It's not hitting, it's not clicking with the fans as well as it did the first time
Right, the first go
because
around.
they really did have nothing to do with Charlie Haas at that point, and Shelton was on a downward spiral, so they put them back together and hope for the best. It didn't work. Um, Back on SmackDown 2008, they actually did a resurgence with him. He beats Matt Hardy for the United States title, and they put a mid card the gold back on him at the Great American Bash. But later on, I mean, for whatever reason, he didn't even hold the belt that long because he lost it to who is now his mentor in the Hurt Business, MVP. And then by that point, I mean, 2009, he's back to ECW, still doing nothing. He had feuds with Kofi Kingston, Sheamus, Goldust, if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't winning the matches
Yeah.
at all. Matter of fact, his low point was even 2010. He enters the Rumble at number 20, last 1 minute. And that pretty much was it. 3 months later, he's released. However, he made a return in 2017. Remember, if everybody remembers, in 2016, he was supposed to make the return,
But
but had a rotator cuff injury.
to go back in it for a second, do you remember why he was released? What were the circumstances?
It wasn't ever clear. I mean,
Okay.
probably just difference in talent, which way they wanted to go with him, or if they weren't going to use him, or it just. I think by that point it was probably better off because he wasn't being utilized to his full capacity and constantly being moved around. So I mean, and then even in his resurgence in 2017, I mean, automatically they put him right back into the tag team picture. Matter of fact, for a good 6 to 8 months, they never even used him on SmackDown. It was almost like you didn't even know he was there, which was kind of sad considering you brought him back and you're still not doing nothing with him. Yeah, he lost almost a year after they just re-signed him because they had gone. Since they were redoing the brand split again, they needed some talent, so they signed the likes of Shelton Benjamin, Kurt Hawkins. I mean, there's a few other guys like that just to build the roster. But they still, even to this day, I mean, he's the current Raw Tag Team Champion with Cedric Alexander in the Hurt Business. I think this has kind of elevated him a little bit. But in my opinion, at the age of 45, I really don't see the belt being put on him at this point, even though Bobby Lashley has it right now. I don't see him being the main event guy. I think his time if you agree with me, it would be 2004, 2005.
Yeah. Yeah, he was hitting his stride, and they just,
yeah,
I don't know if it just comes down to the mic skills or
that I believe that could have had something to do with it because he was average on the mic, which is probably why right now it's better that he's in Hurt Business because MVP has the mic skills for them.
Right,
I mean, we all know Bobby Lashley is average on the mic, so that's why MVP took over, and look what happened. Brock Lesnar was the same thing. Paul Heyman takes over the mic skills for him because Brock is below average on the mic, in my opinion. So
yeah,
that was one of the things that hurt him.
Yeah, the only thing with Brock is that he's so physically imposing, and he had such a look that was able to,
yeah, that was pretty much it. You know, Vince and the big guys.
But he could work like talk about
yes.
So yeah, so it's just a
But I mean, you talk about Shelton had some great matches with all the members of Evolution that year. He had good matches with Flair, Orton, Batista. I mean, you beat Triple H on the first night. You're drafted over to Monday Night Raw as a singles wrestler. I mean, that right there should have been at least a shot. Not so much a Backlash at that point because that was the WrestleMania rematch between Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Chris Benoit. But, I mean, after that, I think he should have had a shot at it. Even before Randy Orton got the title shot at SummerSlam against Benoit, in my opinion, it could even have been Shelton Benjamin. And you could have had even a submission match between the two because he was a submission specialist.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, he literally fell through the cracks, and it was just like they just kept pushing him and putting him in different spots and hoping something clicked, and it never did.
It never did, yeah.
And when you do that to a wrestler, constantly moving them back and forth, I mean, it's just not going to pan out.
Yeah, no.
Especially when ECW was technically a developmental
thing,
even though they had brought in some of the ECW originals, Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, Sandman at the time. It's still, they didn't really do anything with him. He never really got a shot at the ECW title, even when he was there.
Yeah.
So that's the unfortunate one because Shelton is definitely one of the top guys that definitely could have got it.
Absolutely. So number 2 on our list,
Umaga, one of my personal favorites. Umaga, if everybody remembers, is part of the Inoue family. He's Rikishi's brother.
Right. Yep.
And, if everybody remembers, he came in as part of Eric Bischoff's security crew, pretty much tag team with 3 Minute Warning, Rosie and Jamal.
Mm-hmm. We had
and he would warn you when they were coming out.
Right. You had like 3 minutes to entertain him.
Yeah, and he would tell you, you if you remember, they did a wedding on I believe it was SmackDown, back when Stephanie and Eric were running Raw and SmackDown collectively, and he disguised himself as the priest, and he said, "You may love each other for the rest of your life, or for 3 minutes."
Yeah.
And next thing you know, here they come.
Yeah.
So, but that quickly did not work after they had Rico as their manager.
You see, and I wanted to get into that. Rico was funny. I thought he was entertaining, but I never understood why would you have these two monsters with Rico?
Exactly.
Like that never made any sort of sense to me. I'm like, why would you put him with Rico? It's like you're
downgrading them.
What do you like? I didn't know what they were going for, And then Goldberg. You remember when Goldberg whipped their asses?
Yes.
As much as I love Goldberg, and I love that's like one of my favorite things that Goldberg ever did in his WWE run, which was a waste, and we'll get into that in another episode probably. I just felt like you're building these guys up. Why are you gonna have Goldberg just destroy them like that?
Yeah. Well, they also see the problem. I have a feeling I can answer that for you. The one thing they did in the ring that everybody hated was they actually hurt you.
They did hurt people. That's correct.
Yes. And matter of fact, if you remember, at the Royal Rumble in 2003? Yeah, I think it was the 2003 Rumble. He actually got punished by getting a stink face from his brother.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he was the back then Seth Rollins, because we all, everybody, when Seth Rollins first started, he was hurting people as well.
Right.
They were actually doing way more damage than needed.
Yeah.
And so Vince McMahon, if it was him that set it up, who knows?
Right.
Rikishi gives him this thing facing the Rumble. So, I mean, I don't understand why, like you said with Rico. I mean, you give him a strong manager,
right,
and they can thrive as a tag team.
Exactly.
But then if you remember, they had broken him up because, matter of fact, he had left Jamal / Umaga, and Rosie actually went on to being a tag team partner of Hurricane. So pretty much that was over. So, but he returned in 2006. Actually, it was April of 2006, after WrestleMania, as Umaga.
Right, but before that, he got fired for that bar fight that he got into.
Yes. That was the first time he was dismissed.
Right. They fired him, and they basically told him, Jim Ross basically told him, like, look, this is not permanent, but you got to get your act together. This is unacceptable. Eventually we'll probably bring you back, but you're a professional. You can't behave like this.
Exactly.
So going back to what you said, then he comes back 2006.
Yes, right after WrestleMania, his first feud with Flair. Ric Flair was the first one that took him on, which if anybody's going to get in the ring with you to see how you are, it would be Ric Flair. Mostly for the most part, it's the Undertaker that, if he gets in the ring with you, will determine whether or not you've got the it factor.
Right.
But on Monday Night Raw, it was Ric Flair. And matter of fact, his first two feuds were Flair and Kane. That worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they were giving him that strong push, that monster heel, similar to Yoko.
Yeah, and they even gave him an actual manager, if you remember, Armando Estrada. Yeah, with the cigars.
Yeah, Armando was okay. He wasn't bad. But
his mic skills needed some work.
Right. I just felt like
he spoke for a guy that is supposed to be a Samoan threat that pretty much he's not going to talk. He's going to show you what he can do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And Armando is going to tell you exactly what this Samoan bulldozer is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he went on pretty much it was a 34 televised match undefeated streak. So it wasn't like that Goldberg streak where one week we're at 70 and the next night on Nitro we're at 94.
And the thing about him, just like all the other guys, all the other Samoans, the guy could work, man. And for his size, the way he was so agile, he was basically a smaller version of Yokozuna.
Or even Rikishi in my book, because he resembled both of them. He could work. As a big guy, he was agile, and he could produce in the ring.
Yep.
And 2006 was, I believe, the year that he could have did it. However, the one thing, when you start out a guy as big as that and you start doing the undefeated streak, I had said this once before, when you finally give him that first loss, if he can't bounce back from that, it might be over. I mean, because look at last year, for example, Bray Wyatt with the Fiend. All of a sudden, he's undefeated as the Fiend. He's the Universal Champion. Goes to Saudi Arabia last year and loses to Goldberg in 2 minutes. Now, how do you come back from that? And then they booked him against John Cena at WrestleMania. If he takes the loss against Cena, that character is over. But he was able to bounce back from it with the win. In Umaga's case, it didn't bounce back because when he lost to John Cena at New Year's Revolution in 2007, he lost again the following month to him.
At the Royal Rumble, right? Was that the Royal Rumble? Mm-hmm. Which was tremendous. That's one of my favorite Cena matches.
Was it a street fight or a false count? It was something in that line.
Yeah, because he ended up using the ropes, and it was like anything goes. I think it was like a no DQ or something like that.
Yeah,
or something like that. That's one of my favorite matches that Cena ever had. Umaga was so believable as that monster heel. Mm-hmm. I thought that they probably should have put Umaga over then, and you could always put the belt back on Cena later on at WrestleMania or something.
Yeah.
I just felt like you built this guy up, but the problem was at that point, I don't know, was he Super Cena yet? Where he was destroying everybody, or Super Cena was like a little bit later?
He was coming by that point.
He was
It
starting.
was coming.
This was the beginning of
because
Super Cena.
that was the beginning of the year-long title reign that most fans were getting
tired of him. Yeah,
because it was the injury that took the title off of him.
Because I remember at that point that was kind of like the turn where the fans were kind of like, on Cena they were kind of getting a little tired of where they didn't like the way he was basically like the new Hulk Hogan. Basically, they made him like the new Hulk Hogan. Like
he was unbeatable no matter if you put him against Umaga,
right,
Triple H, Great Khali, who was another one they were booking as somebody that was totally unstoppable. And then here comes Cena, and then all of a sudden, boom, I beat you with no issue.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, Umaga, Cena, even if Umaga had the belt for a short period of time and Cena gets it back, even on a Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Because we've seen that before. Kane beat Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWE title at King of the Ring. The next night, he gives him a title match. Kane, they took the title off. Kane put it back on Austin, but Kane still goes down as WWE champion.
Right.
So even if you did that to Umaga just to see, then you see what you got to work with, because even later on, Umaga gets another shot at the title. But the one thing that he was granted, because Vince McMahon loved him at this point, was you remember the Battle of the Billionaires?
Oh yeah, of course.
At WrestleMania, it was Vince McMahon versus Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And Trump picked Bobby Lashley. Vince picked Umaga, and for that, Umaga, because Vince was so high on him, granted him an Intercontinental title opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So he beats Jeff Hardy for it, and now he's recognized as a singles champion, even though it's not the big one right now. Unfortunately, Battle of the Billionaires didn't go Vince's way.
Right, yeah.
Trump and Lashley beat them, and Vince gets his head shaved.
And we found out that Vince didn't have a toupee after all.
Exactly. We were always wondering that, because that never. Well, you got to wonder about both of those guys. I was actually, honestly, that night I was hoping it went the other way, because I was really curious about that.
Yeah.
I didn't think to this.
But I knew there was no way that was going to happen, just because he was doing The Apprentice and everything like that. So there was no way that. So you kind of knew who was going to win. Yeah.
Well, again, the whole thing with the celebrities. Every time they come in to wrestle, they're never going to get the loss.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're going to see that in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So, but in this case, Trump, the celebrity at WrestleMania, Lashley obviously is going to beat him. And what was funny was when Vince shaved his head there, he kind of did that ghetto gimmick where he came out with the do-rag and stuff when he was with the ECW title and Bobby Lashley, because now they're feuding. And, Lashley at the time was in ECW. He got the ECW title, and Vince put it on himself, and they had their whole feud there. But what was funny was when he beat Jeff Hardy for the Intercontinental title, and 2 weeks later when they were over in Italy, and we'll talk about this will be brought up again when we talk about our next guest. He loses the title thanks to Lashley to a newcomer, Santino Marella, which I thought it was good for the storyline with Lashley, but it was bad for his gimmick.
Yeah.
Because you lose to a guy half your size. I mean, even though Lashley did help him, I mean, another example of that is, did anybody honestly think, even though you knew Brock Lesnar was leaving in 2004, did anybody really think that Eddie Guerrero was going to beat him fairly?
Right.
I mean, Goldberg comes in, spears Lashley, Guerrero puts the 5-star splash, and wins the title. In this case, I think it was a little worse because Santino, I mean, in a one-on-one fight, can you really think he could beat him?
No.
So I thought that was a slap. And, I mean, after that, again, like I said before, he teams with Vince McMahon against Lashley for the ECW title. He's being his pretty much his enforcer. July 2nd of that year, he actually regains the Intercontinental title against Santino. So now he's pretty much reduced to the mid-carder.
Right. Now he's...
Unfortunately, he's not, because,
down,
Vince is so high on him and he's helping him with the ECW championship. Why not grant him the World Heavyweight Championship or even the WWE title?
Now, is that before or after he had that violation? He had a wellness policy violation, or was it?
It was when he regained it. He was out for. he was out for a little while with it because he came back around SummerSlam. He was actually a babyface for a minute when he came back because people were cheering for him. And at SummerSlam, he attacked Jeff Hardy, and that ended that. But yeah, that he had his first wellness issue at that point.
Is there an injury there too, or no?
No,
it was just the wellness, right? The wellness.
It was just the wellness, but they didn't take the title off of him until after that because I think he was suspended with it, but he was allowed to keep it because he didn't lose the Intercontinental title until September against Jeff. Right. And again, him and Jeff Hardy, you've diminished his character now. Mm-hmm. Now it's really going downhill. Going even into 2008, they drafted him to SmackDown. August that year, he suffered a torn PCL, which kind of had a setback if they even had a push for him. He didn't return until January of 2009. So by this point now, maybe even the fans have forgotten him.
He had a lot of momentum that they built up for him.
Even with his feud with Triple H, because if you remember the night that John Cena was injured, they granted the title to Randy Orton. Randy Orton faces Triple H in the opening match. Triple H beats him for the title. And then Triple H is ordered to face Umaga, which was a great match. But again, it didn't go his way.
Right.
Triple H retains the title. Later on that night, he has to face Orton again. Orton regains the belt. So he really was not utilized. And matter of fact, he's in 2009, his final feud was CM Punk in a strap match before he had his second violation of the wellness program. And this time he refused to go to rehab.
Right.
And they wound up terminating him.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, his termination was June 2009. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, 6 months later, he passed.
Yeah. And there were actually plans on bringing him back too.
Yeah.
They had some plans on bringing him back, but unfortunately, like so many other greats,
just like even Yokozuna in 2002, they were talking about his return.
Yeah.
And he had a unfortunate, he passed away, one of the all-time greats in my book too.
Yeah.
Sure. But with Umaga, definitely his run 06-07 when they first brought him in.
And that was his time. That was the time to put him I feel like it's almost history repeating itself in a way where
always
you run into a situation where they have this super baby face, like Hogan in the 80s. And for whatever reason, they don't want to put it on the monster heel. They don't want to give the belt to, and then unfortunately he didn't stick around long enough, gets fired and everything. And who knows what would have happened, because if he comes back at some point, I think he wins the title at some point. If they would have rebuilt him the right way, which I'm sure they've repackaged the guys before, they brought guys back before. So
look what they did to Rikishi.
Yeah.
And Vince has a great history with the Anoa'i family.
Yeah. So
if they're a wrestler, he's going to want them.
Yeah.
And he's going to use them in whatever way he can.
Yeah. It's terrible. And how old was it? He was what, 30? Was it 36?
He was young. He still had a career ahead of him.
Yeah, he had
at least another 5-10 years.
Yeah, easily.
He could have easily just been wrestling up until recently.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, not wanting to put it on the monster heel. By now that should be unheard of, considering we have the monthly pay-per-views. You got Raw and SmackDown every week where they're defending the titles. The monster heel winning the title will draw the ratings, especially when it comes time for that big pay-per-view, when you got that top fan favorite going in to take them on.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why they didn't do it back then with him, because in that time, to me, the main eventers were thin. Especially when you had the brand split, Raw and SmackDown. You weren't pushing guys as much as they should have been, because they should have seen that age is starting to hit a factor on certain guys. We need to start bringing up the next group as much as, especially like they need to be doing now.
Yeah.
Because you remember what they said about this past Royal Rumble. This was the geriatric Rumble.
Yeah, pretty much.
2 guys in their 20s, everybody else older than that. So Umaga was at the perfect age where, okay, we can brand you for the next batch of superstars
Yeah.
to be the future of this company. And
Absolutely.
like you see, unfortunately, his demise in December just was tragic.
Yeah. That was it. So, all right. So, number 3 on our list.
This is your number 3 on the list. Me, not so much, but I can see where you would put him in as a candidate. Santino Marella.
That's right, Santino Marella.
Now, for people that don't know this, and I know you do, that they actually named him in memory of Gorilla Monsoon.
Yep.
Because you remember Gorilla Monsoon's real name was Robert Marella.
Marella, yep.
So, here comes Santino Marella, a Canadian-born wrestler based out of Italy, Calabria, Italy.
Yeah, but his father's Italian, though.
Yes, he's an Italian-Canadian. Yeah.
His father's Italian, and the story behind that was they were doing a show over in Italy. I think it might have been in Rome, and people are brainstorming in the back, and they're like, "We don't have anybody Italian out here on the roster."
Oh, you talking about the night he debuted?
Yeah,
Milan.
Milan.
Yeah,
Milan. And so they're going through the roster, and then they see the name. What was his last? Is it Ciroli?
Mm-hmm.
That's his last name, right? They see the name, and they're like, "Well, that sounds pretty Italian." And then they go up to him, and they ask him, "Hey, you speak Italian?" And he said that when he was coming up getting trained, what he was told was, whenever the office asked you if you could do something, just say you could do it.
Just say yes.
Just say you could
definitely.
do it. And he said that he didn't speak. He said he didn't speak Italian. He just knew certain words. And like his father and like his uncles and aunts, they came directly from Italy, so he was very familiar with the accent and certain words and mannerisms. So he's like, I'm just gonna go off of that, even though he wasn't really, he wasn't raised there obviously and didn't speak the language. And so that's how that whole thing was born, that whole character of Santino. And he was scared that he might offend the Italian people over there in Italy, because he felt that they might have been
a standing ovation.
They loved him. He was scared
they went nuts.
He would think they might have been mocking them, and they loved it, and because he was like paying homage and everything, and he got over big time,
Oh yeah, because not only in his first match on April 16, 2007, they held the Intercontinental title open, and they picked somebody out of the crowd against Defesu Umaga.
Right.
It happens to be him. He gets the title with the help of Bobby Lashley.
Yeah,
so in his first match, he's Intercontinental Champion.
Intercontinental Champion, yeah.
And Italy, he, like he said, he's based out of Italy. So all the fans are going nuts. One of their own is the Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they did the dedication to Gorilla Monsoon, because he bled WWE.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It was a tragedy of what happened to him in '98, and even what happened to his son years earlier, Joey Marella. So I mean, doing that tribute to him, that was cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was cool. However, with Santino's great rise came a tremendous fall, because not so far after that he turned heel.
Yes.
And by this point, he's feuding. He did feud with Austin over, if you remember the movie The Condemned.
Yeah, he had the DVD and he threw it on the floor.
Yes.
That was actually really good though. That was really good. It
was funny. A good promo.
Yeah.
He was a good heel.
Yeah.
How they made him later on, we'll get into that. Yeah. Is what kind of ruined him. But doing that with Austin, who was still kind of active on and off Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, he would show up.
It worked.
That's what made me a fan of Santino, was his thing with Austin. That's how I became a fan.
And he even had feuds with Jerry Lawler and even Maria, because you remember Maria used to accompany him to ringside to start.
Yeah, that's right.
And the whole the breakup thing, she's cheating on him, that whole storyline. You remember he started the alliance with Beth Phoenix.
Yeah.
Glamarella.
The Glamarella, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of worked, but to me, it kind of didn't, especially at SummerSlam, where it's Beth Phoenix and Santino against Kofi and Mickie James, Intercontinental Women's title on the line. Both of them were the champions. One good thing did come out of that when he got his second title reign. He started, you remember, the Honkameter.
The Honkameter, yeah.
Where he wanted to break the Honky Tonk Man's 64-week Intercontinental title reign.
Yep.
And at one point, he even referred to it as the Honka Perfect Mountie Meter.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to beat all three of them,
Yeah.
which I don't even know why the Mountie was in it.
I have no idea.
Considering he was only champion for like 2 days.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, I don't understand why he put that in there, but he turned it for a brief time. It was those three guys meter. Even the Honky Tonk Man faced Santino
Yeah,
Marella
I
for the
remember that.
Intercontinental
I
title.
remember that. Yeah, yeah, that was great.
And I mean that was at Cyber Sunday in 2008. And I mean the match was good, but I mean Morella was DQ'd, and Honky comes out, the winner. Obviously, Honky Tonk Man is not active, so we know he's not going to win the title.
Right.
Him defending his honor of the Honky Tonk meter, was good to see.
Mm-hmm.
However, his quest for the 64-week record, he only made it to 12, unfortunately, and he lost it actually to William Regal.
Yeah, which I just don't. You had such a good gimmick with the honky meter. They really should. It was really over. Everybody loved it.
I think it should have
ran with it.
I mean, you could have gotten close to the 64
you could have gotten, yeah, absolutely.
Even at the halfway mark, but at 12, I mean, if you're going to do it at 12 weeks, you just ruined the whole thing you set up.
What's the point? You got to go at least 6 months, at least 6.
Yeah, because this pushes him.
Yeah,
this was actually, if he's coming out with this every week and the fans are either irritated or enjoying it, this is pushing his status up.
You know what it kind of reminded me of? It kind of reminded me of, in a way. I know he's not as good as The Rock, obviously, but it kind of reminded me of when The Rock was a heel, and he kept doing The Rock, the People's Champ, while he was still a heel.
Exactly.
But people liked it, and he was starting to get over. That's what it reminded me of. They could not
keep him as a heel. That was the problem. They tried everything. They even tried Survivor Series 98. They re-gimmicked the Bret Hart Montreal thing with Mankind. It still didn't work. Yeah. Regardless of the fact these fans wanted to cheer for him, but then unfortunately with The Rock, we'll do an episode on him. Eventually it got to the point where the fans just wanted to be disgusted with him.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, he was definitely a guy that no matter what you do at the start, you try to keep him as a heel, they're cheering him. In Santino's case, it was half and half. Half the crowd was with him, half the crowd was against him.
But I felt like he was on that trajectory where he could have gotten there, but then for whatever reason, they start going into this whole too much comedy thing, like over the top comedic stuff.
And to make matters worse, and this is the ultimate hurt, is he enters the Rumble in 2009, and you remember this
as a woman, right? That's when he dressed
up.
No.
That was last year.
Oh, okay. Well, that was
I turned the Rumble off last year when I saw it, because actually last year was a great women's Royal Rumble until he shows up in it, and to me just ruined it. They took a spot away from somebody that could have been in that Rumble, but no. This wasn't Santino Marella yet.
But I felt like maybe my memory is a little messed up. Wasn't he doing something with Beth Phoenix where he wanted to show her that men are superior to women, and didn't he dress?
They did that, and that's when Beth Phoenix showed up in the Rumble. And if you remember, I think she eliminated the Great Khali.
Okay.
Yeah, she was in the men's Royal Rumble. Yeah, he didn't show up into the women's one until last year.
Okay.
Because it was a few years from this that he did the Miss WrestleMania. And by that point, it's totally over.
Right. Okay.
This was where he broke Warlord's record in 1990, I believe it was.
Yeah.
He was in there for 1.9 seconds, eliminated by Kane. And after he got eliminated, and you remember him saying, I wasn't ready.
Right, I remember that.
By this point, if you're eliminating him with that fast, then you really are in the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, exactly. And,
unfortunately, he's going to go down in the record books for breaking the record. But in my opinion, do you really want to go down in the record books as breaking that record? I mean, do you want to be known as the guy? Hey, I got the shortest Rumble. I mean, the shortest 3 guys in there that are going to be remembered now is Bushwhacker Luke, Warlord, and Santino.
Yeah.
And I mean, that I didn't like that. And then to make matters worse, that year, I believe that was the year WrestleMania 25. That was with Miss WrestleMania. And that's where he was in it.
Right.
And I want to go back for a minute, because we actually went ahead of this. I wanted to bring this up, and I don't know if you remember it, in 2007, where he had the issue with Roddy Piper.
Yes.
Where they actually had it out not knockdown drag out, but on the Jimmy Kimmel show, they had a little altercation, a little spat, but nothing ever came from it.
Yeah.
Which was unfortunate because Piper was known as the guy that would come back periodically, take somebody on like he did in 1994 with Jerry Lawler, 1996 Goldust. Came back WWE briefly. I mean, I thought maybe they could do something there because I mean, even remember Piper was still sort of active because the following year, the 2008 Rumble, he was in it at Madison Square Garden. Him and Jimmy Snuka were both in it. So, I mean, I thought they could have done something, even just a match, a one-time match between Piper and him, just to kind of boost him up. Because at that point, I think there was a decline. That's where the decline was starting.
Yeah.
But WrestleMania 25 was definitely, to me, what are you doing to him? And I mean,
it was very done.
Yeah. I mean, and then now you're going into 2010 through 11. So now they've got him in the tag team division.
But he's doing he's like slapstick comedy at that point, right? He's like,
yeah, because another guy that could have been on this list, but he was there too shorter than most, was Vladimir Kozlov. They were, if you remember him, they were very high on him, and he was another guy undefeated. You remember him and Triple H at Survivor Series had a great match.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
ruined by bringing Edge into it. And now Kozlov is no longer undefeated, and he's out of the title picture completely. Because back then, I actually, when they advertised Triple H versus Vladimir Kozlov, I was looking forward to seeing it. Because now, can Triple H beat the ultimate Russian? It's almost like a Rocky Ivan Drago moment. And it was just ruined. So now you got two guys teaming together that have pretty much just been thrown together, that nobody at this point is even paying attention. Now, the old additive with the fans. If they're not booing you or they're not cheering you, you're not doing your job.
Right, yeah, they just don't care. That the worst thing is when the fans don't care.
Exactly.
When did he bring the Cobra in? When was that? Do you remember?
I think it was around that time.
It was, right? The Cobra was kind of over though. Even though it was comedy.
It was slapstick, but you remember the thing with him and Mick Foley. It was Socko versus the Cobra in WrestleMania.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the fans did like it.
They did like
it. He's the slapstick comedian wrestler. We can't take him seriously.
You know what's messed up is that I remember an interview with him where he said that he knew MMA, he knew a lot of mixed martial arts and stuff like that. He said that eventually you're going to see his character progress, and you're going to be able to see that there's a serious side to him. He's going to show off like his MMA moves and stuff like that, and they never let him do it. Like they just turned him into complete slapstick. They never really let him evolve.
No. No, I mean, the tag team thing with him and Kozlov, it was successful at one point because you remember they won the tag team titles. It was on Monday Night Raw in December 2010. They actually beat the Usos, the Nexus, and the tag team. I don't even understand why these two were together, Mark Henry and Yoshitatsu. But, I mean, at that point, I think they were struggling for tag teams. The Usos had just come in. They're not where they are now, even if they are going to still be together. I have no idea. But they actually made them the tag team champions. And if you remember, I think his status to me started coming up in 2011. Because if you remember, he was the final two in that 40-man Royal Rumble. When the one that Alberto Del Rio won. It came down to Santino and Alberto. And if you remember, the fans were doing a standing ovation when Santino almost eliminated Del Rio.
Yeah.
He came into the Rumble at number 37, and I didn't understand why they did a 40-man Rumble that year. I mean, you only did it for 1 year. You could have continued it, but to me, I like the 30-man.
The 30, yeah, it's a traditional.
But you made him one of the final two, and then eventually he gets a title shot, or number one contendership rather, and he doesn't, it doesn't pan out. But I thought that for a split second they might be moving him up at that point since you made him a runner-up in the Rumble, and then it just never happened. And then eventually he loses the tag team titles to Heath Slater and Justin Gabriel, and now it's back to Kozlov and Morella just doing nothing.
Yeah, nobody.
And matter of fact, September of that year, He got injured, returned a month later. It was a minor injury, but at that point they're not even booking him. And you go into 2012, they started pushing him again to the mid carder because he beat Swagger for the United States title. He loses it to our next guest that we'll be talking about in a minute. He loses it to Cesaro or Antonio Cesaro at that point. And by that point, they're not doing anything with him. And in 2014, he actually had to retire.
Yeah.
Or semi-retire because of his third neck injury.
Yeah, he had some bad injuries.
Yeah, and he did some periodic stuff between 2014 and 2016. However, he was terminated in 2016 for a failure to appear. For whatever reason, he pulled a no-show. Vince got tired of it, and they terminated him. And that's the last we've seen him until the 2020 Royal Rumble, where he comes in as Santino Marella, which I think that's the worst thing they could have done for him. When, especially, there was a slim window of opportunity to actually push him on two separate occasions. That very slim, and nothing was done with him.
Yeah, they just ruined him.
The guy had talent.
He did.
I'll say that.
He was good on the mic. He was fine in the ring. They didn't let him do what he could really do.
When he was trying to speak English and he was messing up the words. Son of a gun. He was good. He was entertaining.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. He was. But
Vince got complacent with that, and it just became, oh no, you're my entertainment guy from this time to this time in this slot. This is what I need you to do. Because
Vince loved the comedy and loved the entertainment, and he got they put him in that box.
Slater doing the same thing.
Yeah, they put him in. I remember.
Slater was another yes man, just like Santino. I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And they thought that would get them into the good graces to where I will get finally moved up, and it never happened.
Nope.
So especially with Heath Slater, I mean, the guy literally did every gimmick they ever had him wanted him to do, and he got nothing for it.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that with so many guys though. They've done that with Kane. They did that with the Big Show. Remember when they turned him into like the comedy guy? I don't understand why they do that.
The showster?
Yeah.
At the time?
Yeah, for some reason.
When they did the gimmick when WrestleMania went Hollywood, and he's doing all these gimmicks.
They do it with so many guys where they.
But see, with the likes of Kane and Big Show, they were rewarded. They became world champions because they're the big guys.
Yeah, but
in the case of Santino and Heath, not so much.
Oh. So I blame the producers. I blame Vince, because
the creative team also has a part in that too. Yeah, because they're the ones coming up with this. They're sitting at that table going, "Let's put a Cobra on his hands."
Yeah,
and part of the thing, let's make him an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. So
when the guy had tons of talent.
Yeah, no question.
And like I said before, at the time. Real quick, at the time, you need to start building up your talent.
Yeah, the new superstars.
He could have been it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so last on our list.
He's currently on the roster and currently will be facing Seth Rollins at WrestleMania this year, finally with a push. Thank God he didn't get the world title shot or a world title at Elimination Chamber, because otherwise we'd have to take him off the list.
Exactly.
Cesaro.
Yeah.
Now this is a guy that I really enjoy watching in the ring. He's fit. He's athletic. His mic skills are improving. His storytelling is great. This is a guy that's been here for 9 years. Just now might be getting an opportunity at the Universal Championship.
Right.
So, and this is a guy that's had great matches against John Cena, Roman Reigns. Tore the house down with Sami Zayn. Remember at NXT Arrival? I mean, he actually had a match. I believe it was against John Cena when he used to do the U.S. Open Challenge, the U.S. title Open. Him and Cesaro had a match that actually won a Slammy later that year.
Mm-hmm.
So, but unfortunately, they started him. He was the U.S. champion. They were building him up in 2012. He was beating everybody. And you even remember he was the Andre the Giant inaugural Battle Royal winner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that to me right there should have been a fast track ticket to a title shot.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, why have the battle royal?
Yeah,
Because
otherwise,
guys like Big Show, Baron Corbin, even Mojo Rawley, I believe, won it. Um, it when they first started it, I really thought those guys should have been given something for the effort of winning it.
yeah, no, definitely.
And especially him winning the first one,
Hmm.
it just never happened. And I mean, after he had his match of the year with Sami Zayn, he wins the Battle Royal. They put him back in the tag team with Tyson Kidd, and his singles career went down because he started a losing streak, if you remember, against guys like John Cena, Rob Van Dam, Kofi Kingston, Big E, Heath Slater. I mean, this just was just he crashed and burned instantly.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I don't understand
I
it.
don't get it because it looked like he was getting a big push. They were really putting him
At the
over
start, yes.
at the start, and I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna get the title soon. This guy's he's getting the push. Like the trajectory was there. I don't understand why they pivoted at some point. I know
Well,
he did have some injuries, but what do you remember when his injury started? He had problems.
I know he had some shoulder issues on and off because he wore the
Hmm.
kinetic tape from time to time. His
Right.
biggest injury was back in 2016 or 2015, going into 16 with the WrestleMania. Remember WrestleMania in Arlington? Everybody was hurt.
Hmm.
He was one of the first ones that actually returned the night after.
Yeah. I
One
know.
of the things. Go ahead.
No, I know he did have some nagging injuries along the way. I can't remember exactly when, but I remember like he would have some issues where he'd be gone for a little while, come back. Maybe not
Yeah,
like a long stint out, but I remember that was the knock
it
on
was
him
from
was that
time
he
to
was
time.
the knock on him was that he was injury prone.
When they asked Vince McMahon about him, Vince had stated that Cesaro was lacking charisma, verbal skills, and the it factor, which
He had the
I
it
don't agree
factor.
with.
He had the it
He
factor.
had it.
He had the it
He still
factor,
has it.
and he still has it. Yeah,
Yeah, he has it
yeah,
all. The mic skills, yes, definitely, it's got to be
yeah,
worked on.
yeah. But
But I mean, that's an easy fix.
yeah, but I mean the
But
guys. So they said he's like one of the strongest guys, even though his frame might be a little like leaner than maybe
hence
like
his nickname, the
yeah.
Swiss Superman.
Right. They said that he's incredibly strong, and you could see it.
Hmm.
Some of the stuff that he's done in the ring,
I
the
mean,
strength.
look at the twirls he does, the uppercuts, the
Yep.
agility to the top rope.
Hmm.
I mean, the man has had great match after great match,
Yep.
but the problem with him was they just kept putting him in a tag team. First, it was Tyson Kidd. Kidd gets hurt. His career, is abruptly coming to an end. So then they move him into the Real Americans with Jack Swagger. Okay, now you have a manager, but you're not in a singles role. You're in a tag team division. Then, from whatever reason, he became a Paul Heyman guy for 2 seconds. You remember, Paul Heyman was looking for a stable, and at first it was CM Punk, then it was
Yeah.
Ryback,
Hmm.
Cesaro for a minute. I mean, they even did the thing. If you remember, the Cena went up against the Authority at Survivor Series. That was the one where Sting made his debut. Cesaro had actually joked that, "Oh, I'll be on Cena's team," and then runs out of the ring. Not psych, I'm not going to be part of it. Which actually, I think he should have been part of that match,
Yeah.
regardless of which side he was on, because that was a main event for Survivor Series, especially when they brought Sting in with the stare down with Triple H.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
Dolph Ziggler gets the pin on Seth Rollins, and that team wins. But I mean, again, in 2015, he had the instant classic against John Cena, tore the house down, won a Slammy Award. Again, there should be the thing that says, okay, if he can have a match like this with John Cena for a mid card title, imagine what he can do for the World Heavyweight title.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
So, but yeah, he going back to your injuries in 2015, he had a torn rotator cuff, which kept him out. And that year was the injury bug year, in my opinion, in WWE. Seth Rollins was out, John Cena was out, Cesaro was out. I mean, they were really struggling to find a main event because if you remember, Seth Rollins had to drop the title at Survivor Series.
I remember that. Yeah.
Came down to Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose for the belt. Roman wins it, but Sheamus cashes in the Money in the Bank,
Hmm.
wins it from him. Roman wins it the next month, so on and so forth. They were really struggling, especially that year with trying to put 100,000 people at WrestleMania
Hmm.
in Dallas, Texas, at AT&T Stadium, with all your top guys out. They managed to pull it off, but I mean, it was very difficult when a third of your roster is on the disabled list.
Yeah.
And Cesaro was actually one of the fastest to come back. He came back the night after there, and they did the James Bond gimmick. I don't know if you remember that with the shadow and on the Titantron. He'd come out in the tuxedo, rip it off.
I remember that. Yeah,
and the fans got over with that.
Yeah,
they really had a good run with it. And again, by that point, now you're going to go back in the tag team division.
Yep.
And he had his series with matches with Sheamus, and eventually they put them together.
Yeah.
This was in my opinion, his best. If you're not going to push him, at least you've made him. You're making him a huge success in the tag team division with Sheamus in the bar. He was a total combined, 5-time tag team champion with him. I mean, they beat everybody. They beat Anderson and Gallows. They beat New Day, the Usos. I mean, they were the top tag team. But in my opinion, you took two guys that you had that could have been. One of them was your main eventer.
Sheamus. Yeah.
And another guy that could be a main eventer, and you stuck them in a tag team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, it was successful, but honestly, I mean, I don't know if you're going to agree with me. Would you have rather seen them face guys like Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, John Cena, Randy Orton,
absolutely,
in the main event picture?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and then, I mean, now they did break up the bar. Everybody knows what happened. Sheamus got a concussion after last year's 2 years ago was WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. So they split them up. Cesaro gets drafted to Raw. Sheamus stays on SmackDown because they weren't sure if he was going to come back. It actually was a year before Sheamus returned.
Mm.
So what did they do with Cesaro? Would they keep him in the singles role? No. They teamed him with Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura. Now he's got a little stable, but it's to get Zayn the Intercontinental title last year against Braun Strowman. So now we're back in the mid-card thing where where you think he would be pushed. And he wasn't. It wasn't actually until recently his contract was expiring.
Mm-hmm.
And they were afraid possibly of him going to AEW.
All right, like everybody else.
Yeah. Well, unless you're 50 and older.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with this one because I do believe that Elimination Chamber this year, he was supposed to win it and go on and face Roman Reigns for the Universal title. However, because he didn't sign the contract, and this is not 100% proven that this happened, it's alleged, that because he didn't sign his contract right away, that he was punished when he did. And for that, he didn't win the match, which I don't know if I want to agree with that or not.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I have heard and I have read that after WrestleMania this year, whomever is the Universal Champion, whether it's Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, or Edge, he is to be getting the first crack at the title. And whether he gets a run at it or not is anybody's guess. But he is getting a major run, and I do believe this may be the only guy to come off our list.
He's got the chance.
It's possible.
We'll see, but there could just be another team.
Besides this year, his biggest chance for a run was when he first started,
yeah,
or even in 2015 when he had that match with John Cena.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
It should have opened Bruce Pritchard's eyes and be like, this is our next superstar.
Absolutely, no question.
But at least he's getting a credible match at WrestleMania this year against Seth Rollins, because those two guys, they'll do well in the ring against each other. He's not getting a pre-show match. He's not getting a tag team match. He's actually getting somebody that's a Royal Rumble winner, a former WWE Universal Champion. He's getting somebody credible at WrestleMania, and I think this is going to be beneficial for him.
For sure. Let's see what happens.
And like I said, this may be the first guy that comes off our list, the only guy that comes off our list.
Right, yeah.
Honestly, I wish all of these guys came off the list.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame. It's a shame with a lot of these guys. But this is a good series going over the guys that should have gotten the title at some point. And no fault of really their own. I would say it's not. There's a couple guys. A couple people have asked me. Why don't you have Jake the Snake on the list? Why don't you have the British Bulldog on the list? And
Jake the Snake Roberts, I can actually answer that. He but I think it was because of he was battling his own personal demons at the time, and I don't think if they put the title on him back then, I honestly don't think Vince could have trusted him
No, and
to keep to the schedule
no,
because he was kind of unstable.
yeah, and
Great wrestler,
yeah,
great mic techniques, everything,
no question.
just unstable with his demons.
Yeah, and again, and that I bring those two guys up because this list is about guys that they should have gotten the title and it wasn't their fault. I look at guys like Bulldog and Jake the Snake, and I love them and they were great wrestlers, great performers, but they sabotaged themselves.
Yes.
It wasn't that the office, didn't push them the right way or, politics and stuff like that. You know, those guys were their own worst enemies, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I bring them up just to let you guys know, like, hey, we recognize there's other guys too that had the ability,
there's
that
tons
had
of
the
them
ability,
that could have been.
but we felt like this list is the guys that it wasn't their fault. They should have got they should have gotten their run, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you could add a good 20 other names
Yeah,
to the
absolutely.
list,
There's always, yeah,
but I guarantee
unfulfilled
you,
potential,
if anybody out there gives me a name of somebody that should have been champion, I can tell you a flaw on the reason why they weren't.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And it's not politics, and it's not being held
Hmm.
back by any top wrestler. It's their own
Yeah,
flaw for whatever reason it is, personal or business.
yeah, no question. So I hope you guys enjoyed the series. If you guys have any recommendations on other episodes you'd like to see, please tell us in the comment section. The next regular episode we have coming up is going to be going over the history of Lex Luger in the WWF, only his run in WWF from
From 1991, I'm sorry, 1992 to 1995.
1992 to 1995, and we're
Yes.
going to be doing our retro review series, which is we start off with the first WrestleMania.
Yep.
So hope you guys like the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.